Hey guys, what's going on? Water King 9977 here, and today we're looking at a subreddit that people call r/entitledparents. It's about parents who think they are God, technically. So, let's get right into this one. Hi everyone, so I'm a first-time Reddit user. I decided to make a Reddit post of my own personal experience with an entitled parent. After finding a few entitled parent YouTube videos. The EP in the story was actually my then wife, and was a factor in what caused us to divorce. So as a starter, my wife, who I will call Emily, was always a bit entitled. As she had grown up with wealthy parents, and truly was one of those keep me in a lifestyle to which I have become accustomed types, I accepted that because I knew it was her parents that had made her this way, and that these learned behaviors could be unlearned just by existing in real life. And she truly had a wonderful side. She could be generous and loving, and truly cared about the people she allowed into her life. I think this also played into her entitled parent status, though, because she expected others to be as generous as she could be, and was fiercely and blindly protective of our children. Unable to see how she/they are in the wrong until after the fact, when I had explained it to her in great and excruciating detail. All this to say, she had a big disconnect between how she could behave and her expectations of others, versus what is actually appropriate and realistic expectations of strangers. With that picture painted, here's what happened. We were at Tesco's with my youngest daughter, who has mild autism, and struggles to understand social situations. You may also know that people with autism have a distorted sense of self and can be very self-centered. My daughter collects Funko Pops and is currently obsessed with Harry Potter. She needs the Luna Lovegood with a lion headdress on. And every time we went to Tesco, she would run to the toy aisle and see if they had it. We could have ordered it online, but we promised to get her it if it was there. And this hope made it far easier to manage having her and whatever activity she was doing at home, and to get her in the car. She struggles with transitions, and these can be truly stressful. So on this occasion, we arrive at Tesco, and she runs straight to the aisle. We follow behind at a distance to allow her time to browse without us looking over her shoulder. She's been out of sight for no longer than a minute when we hear her scream. We both ran over in panic to find my daughter trying to pry a coveted pop out of another young girl's hands. This young girl is in a wheelchair and clearly has severe learning difficulties. I know you will judge my daughter here, but please do keep in mind that she has autism and associated learning disabilities herself. The girl in the wheelchair is trying to hold the pop out of reach, and her mom is standing to the side of her trying to get between my daughter and hers without touching my daughter. A trying task. My wife stomps over and immediately starts on the mother. Don't you dare touch my daughter. The mom, with patience of a saint, looks at my wife and says, I'm trying to stop her. I'm trying to stop her from hurting my daughter. I get a bit annoyed at this because my daughter has never been violent with anyone, but can see why she would make this assumption given what was happening. My wife did not see this. She instantly started shouting, how dare you? What do you think she is, some kind of monster? She would never hurt She would never hurt a disabled person. She just wants the pop. If you would just give it to her, she would leave you alone. She looks at the girl and says, give it to her now. The mom instantly steps into my wife's face and very calmly warns my wife that if she calls her daughter that again, she will beat the shit out of her. My wife looks at me for help, but I just look at her. I just look at her. I spelled that wrong. The truth is, I was about to intervene on behalf of the mother. I was so full of rage at my wife at this point that she called this child a childless, even our own daughter's issues. And how upset my daughter, had gotten when she had been called this in the past. I knew right then that this woman I had chosen to marry was a vile human being. They argued back and forth for a little while with no real resolution. Meanwhile, I grabbed and picked up my daughter, stopped her, trying to get the young girl with the pop. The argument was pretty mundane. The usual things you'd expect, the mother explaining why she didn't have to give up at the toy as her daughter had picked it up first. We later found out there was loads left on the shelf. It wasn't even the only one. And my wife had the audacity to tell this woman that my daughter needed it because she has autism and her daughter didn't. At this point, I got fed up of listening and did intervene. I cut my wife off and apologized profusely to the mother and offered to buy her daughter the pop. She not so politely, but also understandingly declined. As she made her way away, my wife began screaming at me about how I should have defended her and how I was out of order for not. I explained to my wife that I would have nothing to say to her until we got in the car. Noticed the remaining Luna Pops and let my daughter choose another. My wife followed me around trying to engage in conversation, but I ignored her for the most part, and reiterated that I had no intentions of speaking to her. I had never been so disgusted by anyone in my life, and the idea that this woman was the mother of my child made me feel sick. I later explained to her why she was wrong, and she began to get it, but the damage had been done. I could not be with someone who would use that word to describe someone who had it even worse than our daughter. We ended up divorcing over something else weeks later, but in the back of my mind then, and now, this was the beginning of the end.